Hi guys, my name's Lance Mannins and welcome to this week's live broadcast where we look to bring to you interviews and educational pieces from the NZ big game fishing scene. Behind the scenes we've got Keza, my partner in crime with NZ Big Game Fishing. He'll be making sure that everything is working smoothly with this live stream this evening. NZ Big Game Fishing, which we kicked off just over 11 years ago with a view to bringing together a central resource for everything that was happening within the NZ big game fishing scene. So thanks for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. And this week we are really privileged to bring to you tonight Captn John Batterton, internationally renowned and recognised skipper who has run boats internationally and in New Zealand for the last few decades. Kiwis here in New Zealand will probably know him as skipper of Hookin Bull, which was based out of the Bay of Islands for many years, who with Guy and Eryn Jacobson captured more world and national line class records than we probably have time to talk about in one session tonight. So welcome, JB. It's a real pleasure to have you with us tonight. Good, really good. How's the fishing been recently?
Yeah, I haven't been out, Lance, but yeah, the young fella just called me a little while ago. Says it's real good. Some of them getting 5, 6, 7 bites a day out there at the moment. So yeah,
excellent.
Yeah,
excellent. Hey, just a few little quick announcements before we get into play tonight. First of all, just thoughts go out to everyone up in Tonga with the eruptions and the tsunami and bits and pieces that happened a few days ago, and also to everyone up in Tutukaka with all the damage up in the marina. I take it you were up there, weren't you, JB?
Yeah, we were. We were at Wynn's funeral there, or it's aftermatch for his funeral. Yeah, it was pretty brutal, really. It was,
yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was what, about 9, 10 o'clock at night or something? There was.
Yeah, it was a little chop to be fair, but it was about there.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, all of a mess.
Yeah. Cool. So hey, look, we've got a prize tonight. JB's going to he's going to pick a winner from the favourite question that he sees come across tonight. So what we're after is during the Q&A tonight, we're going to ask some questions to come through. So start firing them through in the chat box. If you can start getting those through sooner than later, that would be great. Kieran's going to start chucking those through, and we'll start asking those of JB. So yeah, get them through. We're looking forward to your questions tonight. So tonight's format, we're going to run through JB's history, how he got into fishing. We're going to spend a bit of time talking the nuts and bolts around some of the light tackle records that were achieved with with Guy and Eryn on Hookin Bull, and also with Harlequin, because that's kind of where I think it all started, didn't it, John?
The light tackle part, yeah. But prior to that was the Lady Claire, yeah.
Yeah, cool. And look, it's been a pretty hot start to the season, and one of the big things that I think that's really popped out early on has been the size of some of the striped marlin that have been coming through. I think you would have noticed that so far, some 170s and 180s. What are your thoughts on that so far?
Oh, it's outstanding. It's good. We haven't had fishing like that for quite a while now, and all of those fish, I can't imagine how big some of those fish are going to be in April, May, June, even into July. They're going to be beauties. Yeah. There'll be a couple of 200s caught this year, I reckon, plus.
Yeah, so it's kind of heading us into that record-making potential again, isn't it?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, there's going to be some big fish caught. Yeah.
Can you remember back to a few seasons ago that you kind of remember that kind of stuff going down?
Yeah, there was a bunch of them showed up off Whangaruru and all down there. We caught a couple of pretty nice fish there, and we ended up with a 170 odd on 3 down there, and we just persevered because of the size of the fish. Every day, every second day, someone was catching a big marlin there. So and we really haven't seen that since. So looking forward to it.
So was that 2010 season where there was like 120 odd fish caught over 4 days in that kind of Whangaruru, Whangamunu kind of area, late April?
Yeah, I'm not sure what year it was now, but it was late there, and there was just marlin everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah. All right, because I also think back to that Jim Petherick fish that was caught way back in 2006, sorry, June 2006. I mean, that must have started off as a fish along those lines, because both those fish, the Tutukaka one and the one that was caught out of the back of the barrier, you know, pretty big fish but skinny, so they've got a lot of time to feed up, haven't they?
Yeah, well, that 224. That is the current record that was caught at 2. That thing's enormous. It's so fat. It's funny, I was just looking at it the other day, and then if you get that 180, whatever it was, and add those dimensions to it, that's a big one. That could be 250 or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, pretty cool.
All right. Okay, well, let's get stuck into it. So how did you get into fishing, JB? Where did it start?
Kind of started with like every kid, I guess, mum and dad going fishing, and then we bought the dinghy, and then the 15-footer ended up with slightly bigger boats, and then we ended up with like a 30-odd footer, and then we just started cruising around through Coromandel and up around Tutukaka, got up here to the bay a couple of times, did a bit of fishing, and then the old man used to always charter Harvey Franks on Lady Margaret, or the reef before then, and then so I got really friendly with them and with that family, and Harvey was a good bastard. He is a real good bugger, and we got on really good, and he sort of put me under his wing, and away we went from there.
Nice. And then in terms of you thinking about, you know, this as a job, you know, where did that kind of kick off?
I always I kind of had it in the back of my mind. I went and did an apprenticeship as a marine engineer, which was helpful, but I didn't really enjoy it. And so as soon as I came out of my time, I pretty much wanted to go fishing, and I ended up actually with Kin on the Waimana.
Yep.
And did our first season out of Tutukaka, and then I just knew that was what I wanted to do, and just kept doing it.
Yeah, cool. So kicked off on the Waimana, and were there a few other, did you just kick off in New Zealand, or did you get over to Australia pretty early, or?
Reasonably early. I started with Kin, and then I worked with Laura Ross on the Maracuita, and then did a couple of seasons with David on the Diomedia, and then Chrissy on the Lady Lola, Chris Britton. That was good. And and in the middle of that, I started fishing in Cairns, because that was the place to be. And I was really fortunate that I got to fish with Frank Thompson, just a legend. Just don't get any better than that. And he was a bit of a mongrel dog, but I learned a hell of a lot off him. He is a good man, and he knew his stuff. And once you cracked him, he would teach you. So a couple of seasons were a little rugged, but the next 3 were awesome. Yeah, and then I worked with a couple of different guys after that. I worked with Bobby Jones for a long while. Good man, and he ran a good operation. And then Laurie Wright, same thing, real good joker, real good fisherman, real professional. So I was really fortunate to fish with those guys.
Was that pretty much the heyday? Well, I mean, it's still pretty strong over there, but was that kind of the heyday over there of the big fish and weighing kind of everything, or did the conservation start kicking in around then? Or?
Yeah, to be fair, we didn't kill that many fish. Those guys had killed lots of fish all prior to that, and then just around that time, they were starting to let them go. We only, probably in the 5 years I was with Frank, we probably only killed five marlin, and then with Bobby 1, and then Laurie none. And that's the way it's going now. It's unless it's a particularly big fish, most of the guys are just letting them go, getting them correct, and setting them on their way. Yeah, no, it's good.
Was there a couple of fish that really stood out on the reef over those years?
Yeah, it's hard, eh? There's so many big marlin there. It just staggers you. But I remember one, the topper number 4 there, that it didn't even eat, but you just don't know how big that thing was. I'll never forget that. And then we caught some great fish, and it's more about the people, mate. Like, it's I remember more about the good jokers we were fishing with and stuff like that. But yeah, it's pretty special fishing now.
Yeah. And in terms of international skippers and that were fishing down there, or anglers that we might kind of know, is there anything that you can kind of relate to us that?
Everyone was there. Everyone that was any good anywhere ended up in Cairns. That was just the place to be. And so like, yeah, all the internationals there, you know, like everyone went there. No doubt about it. It was just the place to be.
Yeah. Okay. Just a quick question from Michael Savage. Do you think the fishing's better now or comparable, you know, between the 80s and the 90s, if you're thinking about the marlin and the blue fishery here? You know, if you think back to those days versus, you know, I think you can kind of see where that question's coming from.
I think it definitely is. Like, I think like some of those early days when I was on the Lady Claire, we struggled, you know, like it was, if you caught a dozen marlin in the season, it wasn't outstanding, but you'd done all right. No, I think it got way better in the last.
And is that because of when that moratorium came in, where the commercial fishing stopped, and then we had a chance to kind of build up the marlin stocks again, or?
It's hard to know. It's hard to know currents and everything like that, but you know it had an impact. Clearly, it did. It made a difference. But you know, like we still can have the last 2 or 3 seasons have not been that brilliant. But look what's happening already, and if that just keeps going, so a lot of it is, you know, like when we get those runs of yellowfin, everyone says, "Oh, it's good the yellowfin are back," but I think the yellowfin were always there. They were just somewhere else, and we missed them, you know. But yeah, without doubt, the fishing's got better. That blue marlin fishery in New Zealand's pretty good now too, and clearly the sword fishing.
Yeah. But you look at the last 6 years, say, of yellowfin fishing here in New Zealand, and it's only been the last couple of years we've actually seen any real run of them, isn't it?
Yeah. It just seems like, and a lot of that's we're getting more now because everyone's going lighter leaders, smaller hooks, smaller lures. I know when we were targeting those shortbill spearfish records, our tuna hook catch went through the roof. Like, really did, by just downsizing everything. So there's probably a bit of that as well.
Yeah. So what size leaders were you going down to?
On the spearfish?
Yeah.
100 pound fluorocarbon.
Okay.
Yeah, just really light.
Okay. All right. So early years and mentors. So you really kicked off with your first drive. Was that Lady Claire?
Yep. Yeah. It's an old 36-foot twin engine, bloody. Yeah, had a couple of little Fords in it. And we did pretty good, to be fair. My first season, we had a lot of dramas, a lot of things going wrong. And, we did pretty good that first year. And, I was on that boat for 5 or 6 seasons, I think.
Yep.
And, caught some nice fish.
Yep. So you're working the New Zealand season, and then you'd skip over to Australia, or you'd do Australia, then New Zealand, and then go over to Europe, or how were you working things?
Actually, it was just New Zealand and Australia, and then the whole lure fishing thing started coming about, and I just got so frustrated with so many bites. Like, it was cool to get more bites, but we just couldn't convert them. So I pretty much just jumped on a plane and went to Kona, and then got lucky again. You make your own luck, don't you, I guess. But and then met up with Freddie and McGrew Rice on the Air Nui, and I was just walking up and down the marina every day, hitchhiking there in the morning, hitchhiking home in the afternoon, and McGrew gave me a lift home, and now he's one of my tightest mates ever, you know. So I learned a lot off those guys about lure fishing and stuff, and all those Hawaiian boys are pretty handy at it. So and so then it just became New Zealand. Kona, Cairns. It was full on. We didn't even fly home half the time. We'd just go straight to Cairns from Kona and just fish every day.
Yeah. So what were the big lessons that came out of Hawaii with the lure fishing?
There was dozens. There was so many, like hooks, lures, leaders. Like, it just went on and on. Speed, and A little bit different there because they are blue marlin predominantly, and there's no doubt those striped marlin are a lot harder to hook on a lure than the blue marlin, but certainly learn enough to improve my hookup rate here. But having said that, even though we were doing all right on the lures, we pretty quickly after that went just to teasers, and then started pitching baits. So those striped marlin are a little trickier to catch.
And so from Lady Clare, you moved in with Clive Reid on Harlequin. That was the move after that. Yep.
Good. I'd just been offered a ride in Kona. It was a really tricky decision to make. I'd been offered a job running a 48-footer there. I love Kona. It's like my second home. But I felt like I wanted to fish in New Zealand. I wanted to do something in New Zealand. And then when we got in touch, he'd had the boat for a year, hadn't gone that well. And I was going straight to Cairns. So I rang Bobby and said, look, this guy's got a boat. Can we just take him out for a few days at the end of the season, see how it's going to work out? And so Clive flew over. We did 4 or 5 days. He caught a bloody big marlin right on our last day. It was awesome. Yeah. And then the rest, and then good joker, and we're still really good friends.
Yeah.
And he just loved his fishing. It was perfect guy to have owning a boat.
Yeah. So taking those learnings then from Hawaii, you just kind of drop them into the New Zealand operation, and that was the big change, was it, from taking hooks out of lures and just going to that pitch bait type fishing operation?
When it wasn't just the lures, what really got me there was McGrew and Freddie did a lot of live baiting.
Yeah.
We would high speed troll down south, just be on our own, and then we'd just live work bait one of the boys or whatever. And then that really opened my eyes about the amount of fish we were catching on live bait. So I brought that back pretty good too. So that pretty much we would tow our lures to wherever we wanted to go or run, whatever. And then that live baiting really came into play, especially in those early years when as kings were firing.
Yep.
All you had to do was catch a bin full of blues and you were going to have a good day.
Okay. All right. So even for blue marlin, you were live baiting?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny how that fishery up there's changed now. Like it's predominantly lures now. Like you very rarely see anyone live baiting up there now.
Is that for what reason? Sharks or just everyone's towing lures?
I've really got it nailed down. Their hookup rate's really good.
Right.
Those guys are doing pretty good with their blue marlin fishing up there.
Okay. All right. So how long did you work on or run Harlequin for?
I think it was like 10 years, Lance. Yep. It might have been a couple of years longer, but and then it was all back-to-back charters. And I had really good charters. It was excellent. They all became my friends. I was booked a year in advance. I knew what was coming, and it was great, And then just towards the end there, I could just see it, like I was getting bored, like, man, give me a break. There's got to be more to this. And then we'd done a little bit of light tackle stuff with Clive, and then the joker who bought the Harlequin, he did a little bit as well, and we caught a couple of records there, and it kind of got my interest. And then I was like, man, I got to do something else, so I'm out. I just can't keep doing this. And then I heard that guy had a boat for sale, and a guy had rung me up and asked me about it. So I rang the guy up and said, got a guy interested in your boat, and he wanted to do a trade on a little Blackwatch. And he just said, is that the best light tackle boat in the world? And I said, not really, it's pretty good, but no. And next minute we were on a plane, and off we went, boats, and that's how it happened. Yeah.
And that was the start of the journey.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So I take it at that stage that Guy was pretty focused on wanting to like really get into that light tackle stuff and chasing those records and bits and pieces. And did that start with Amakura or?
Oh, he started that from way back. See, he fished way back in the day. I think he was always interested in light tackle, and then Dean ended up on the outer limits with him. They did a bit, and then Popper, Jeff, they started catching a few, and then so I think it was always a bit of his passion, you know.
Yeah. So it was Amakura and then Hookin Bull, I take it, with Guy.
Yeah, I didn't really have a lot to do. Like the Amakura, he already had a captain. I was pretty standoffish about that. So we did a delivery up to Vanuatu. I did a couple of trips there, and then I ran it for a little bit in New Zealand. But it wasn't suitable for that what he wanted with that light tackle fishing either. So he sold that, and then he looked around for quite a while. Flying a boat, and then the Raptor became available as a GNS up in the States, and I'm like, Guy, please just go and have a look. And he had a look all through Australia. He looked at all through there pretty hard. Anyway, long story short, he just jumped on a plane. He he put an offer on the Raptor, and then the next day he saw the Hookin Bull and got out of the Raptor and went straight into the Hookin Bull, and I think he spent 5 minutes on that boat and bought it.
Nice, awesome. So, in terms of you getting to grips with the whole light tackle, challenge and building up a team to be able to go out there and start targeting these records, I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. I mean, we've talked quite a bit about this. And what did you have to do to kind of get set up and start kind of becoming successful with these light tackle records and getting to grips with it? Where did you have to start with it?
Well, the first thing we had to do was make a shitload of mistakes. That photo there, right there, is one of them. That's bloody big striped marlin on 6, and we downsized our gaffs because that was half the problem. The gaffs were too big, too heavy. The boys couldn't get them where they want them, and Rowan there, that's a hell of a gaff shot that he puts in there. But I downsized the gaffs just a little too much to get the maneuverability with them. And so we ended up ripping that fish off the gaffs there, and then we lost it a couple of hours later, cracked it off or something. But I guess what I'm saying is that all we did was make lots of mistakes, and we were pretty hard on ourselves. We had that really good team together. There was Guy and Eryn, both dedicated, and then Brad Fergus, there he is on the leader, just a champion. And Rowan, and then Bevan was there to start with as well. He was there in the early days, and I had really good guys, and they all bought into it, which is what you need. You need everyone to invest in it 100%. And so we got pretty passionate about it. And every time we made a mistake, we didn't get mad. Sometimes maybe we did a little bit, but we sat down and we nutted out what we did wrong, and we learned. And then we learned pretty quickly, and then we started catching a couple, and then we started really thinking about it and learning, and we started talking about the 1 and 2 percenters. And if we could get half a dozen of those or more, it was going to be good. And then we were losing. We had so many shots at particularly big fish, and we were missing them. We were ripping them off on gaffs and stuff like that. So that's when we went to the 2 gaff man program, and that's where Dorsal Guy came in, and another joker, just deadly with a gaff. He just doesn't miss. He's not so crash shot with a tag bolt, but he's bloody good with a gaff. And we had 2 different sets of gaffs. We had heavy gaffs for the bigger fish, and we had a set of smaller gaffs, and then we went to titanium. Like everyone goes on about getting the leader and everything like that, and it is important, don't get me wrong. But the end game is that gaff shot. If that's not a good gaff shot, it's just about always going to end in tears.
Yep.
And so you can have the best joker on the leader in the world, but if the gaff shot's no good, then you're in trouble. So all through there was so many different things. We were cracking leaders off left, right, and centre, and so we started using cable, and that was a significant difference as well. Right? And it really hindered us on our live baiting. I'd sit up in town and I'd watch a air bubble just go down, and it would just run down the leader, and it would just make the leader look like a rope. And it's like, no. And we were like, whatever. One of those things is going to eat it. So we reduced our bites. We knew when we got hold of that leader that thing was going to be in trouble, because we certainly broke a lot of leaders off on other stuff.
And what about hooks and bits and pieces? Was that kind of a bit of a learning curve, like jays and circles and bits and pieces?
The key to a hook, for me anyway, is that it needs to be sharp, but it needs to be sharp gradually. We get a linisher. The boys would do a hook, and it didn't matter what sort of hook it was. They'd spend an hour on it, just getting it right, and then finish it up with a really fine final. Those hooks with needle, which is not, it's kind of hard case when you're fishing in heavy tackle. You don't want it quite so sharp, because your drag settings are so heavy, you can bend the tip of the hook really easy. But we were never doing that, so it wasn't an issue. Everything was about we would file the barbs right off, like almost gone, and we would file right back up into the end of the hook and just thin it down. And that was the key, or I think it was anyway.
So you'd get a slow draw into the mouth with that slow push up on the drag.
All I needed to do was just a hook in there, just hook there somewhere, just so we could, because we couldn't. The drags were so light. Like a lot of times on that light shit, you rip back, don't grab the lead, and the bait comes out. It's not. It was never ever hooked. It never ever was even hooked. So all we needed was it to bloody just get there somewhere, and then when we get hold of the leader, it was going on.
Okay. And favoured live baits over that period was what you could get, or where you're fishing, obviously, blue coeys and bits and bobs.
Yeah, it's hard to beat a bloody 5 to 10 pound yellowfin tuna. Hard to beat that anywhere in the world. Those blues in New Zealand and skippies, But even the old carwai, every time we ran past the pin, we stopped and we put 3 or 4 carwais. And then now you're trolling up to North Cape or whatever, you can't catch a bloody skippy. Here he comes, and you give it a carwai, and you wouldn't have caught it if you hadn't stopped for that bloody 10 minutes to get a couple of baits. So pretty much like you say, if you can get a bait,
Nice. Hey, let's have a quick little look at a few of the records and bits and pieces, and then move into some of the tackle setups and bits and pieces. But just keep coming through with these questions, guys. We will get to some more of them in due course. And also, if you do get a chance, just let us know where you're coming from. It'd be good to see if we've got any people internationally listening in. That'd be fantastic. And also, any of the questions that come in, JB will be looking at those, and his favourite question at the end of the program will win the Big Game Fishing hoodie and cap. So get your questions in. So I think the first one we're looking at, and I actually pulled these off the Marlin magazine, I think it was top 200, and I think this was number 15, I think. So it was Guy's stripey, it's all in pounds, which I can't do the quick calculation. So what, 6 pound, which is what, 3 kilo or something, John? So
that's fish I was talking about before. All those marlin were down off there, and we'd actually caught a pretty nice one, like a 120, and we'd caught the record on 3 on Kai got it on the Harlequin. It was 124 or something, and it was 120 odd, and I was like, man, that's a bloody good marlin still. And we were disappointed about that fish, but we actually shouldn't have been. We should have been really proud of it, And when we were running back down, Brad came up and actually said that, and I was like, you know what, you did right. We need to settle down a little bit. That was a bloody good mark. It was a hell of a fight, and it really that fish before that one really changed my perspective. Like I was like, we need to appreciate all these. It's not all about a world record, Anyway, we went down there and we probably could have done better. The fishing was good up north, up the Kings, but we knew every couple of days someone was catching a big one. I'm like, we just got to hang in there. And then that thing came along and ate it, and it just started jumping, and we were right up its ass the whole way, just jumping.
Yeah.
And Guy did really well not to break that thing off. He really did. It was a great effort, and then he kind of stalled out, and Brad got the leader, and the bloody fish went, because we were going pretty quick. The fish went up under the rigger, and he hung on to it, and it kind of jumped back down underneath the rigger, and then the rest is history with another beautiful shot, and big marlin. I was pretty stoked with that one. We actually stopped that time. We didn't do it very often, but we actually stopped and just cracked open a beer after that one. As soon as we put it in the boat. Yeah, it was good fish.
And I think the thing with that one is, can we just put that one back up, Kieran? I think the description's not there, but that's 100 to 1. What do you call it?
Guys caught a lot of those. Guys,
that's more. It's It's over 100 to 1 ratio.
Well,
that was one of the big.
No, it's not, because it was on 3, so it would have to be. No, he caught a 100 to 1 on 1 kilo.
Was that the one? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, what's up next, Kieran? So you went up to Nova Scotia, and Eryn got the world record on 50 pound for the
Bluefin
tuna, which is awesome.
Cool truck.
Outstanding. Yeah.
We had bloody good jokers, but we had a little trouble with, we chartered a boat, and they pretty much tell us we can't do it. And so we spent the first 2 days fishing on 130, and I ended up saying, look, fellas, this is what we've come to do, and that's what we're going to do. We just might as well come home. And so, it was kind of hard to get the guys into it, because they just they weren't really confident. And we caught this fish. We lost several. The guy had a real bad moment there. We actually ran out of fuel, and we had the leader just about out of the water. And so that was on another real big one. He was on 30 pound. But that fish there, you see Mark Daisy there, there's a good wireman right there. And that's one of the reasons we went there, because we knew that we needed a guy that could hang on, and that man can hang on. And the other trouble we had there was most of those, once again, those tuna are caught on light leaders, and we knew we were just going to crack them off as soon as we got the leader. So we gambled and used the cable again, and so we had a lot of rejections, but there were so many tunas there. And then we were throwing pilchards in, and 2 of them just came in at once. And so we had, the line was off the tip, the double was off the tip, we had everything like that. We just threw the bait in, and the thing ate it. And then Eryn did really good. We actually shipped the reel shit itself. It's one of the few reels. That reel we had some serious drag on it, and when we got it, when Mark got hold of the leader and we got the bloody thing, the reel was buggered, eh? Yeah, we had some serious drag on the fish.
Excellent. And I mean, because that we were just south of Nova Scotia, that water's pretty shallow through there as well, isn't it?
Yeah, there was. So we fished out of Valentine's Cove.
Yep.
And the first day we went out, Lance, the herring boats were all on the bank.
Yep.
And it was insane. We didn't even put bait in the water. We probably videoed, or Guy did, and I just sat up on the tower and I was just shaking my head, these big giant things. And we probably did that for 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
And then it's an unreal fishery, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I highly recommend it to anyone to get up there and check it out. If you can get on one of those commercial boats and have a crack, it's definitely worthwhile. I did it 2019. It was outstanding. Yeah.
The thing with that record is it actually doesn't stand any longer, because about I don't know how long, 4 or 5 years later, they said that any bluefin that was caught in Canada by that wasn't a Canadian citizen couldn't hold a record. And we'd already gone through the process. We had fisheries come down to the boat and everything, so it was really gutting. And then we just got a letter from IGFA saying sorry, and we were like, "You got to be kidding us!" And but I'm pretty sure. In fact, I know they've changed that rule back a year or so ago. So yeah, fill your boots, fellas. Go up and go up. Yeah, it's like a reef. It's a place that you should go and fish. It's unreal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Quick question before we move on to the next photo from Kane. What's the one fish you haven't caught yet that's on your bucket list?
A tarpon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've had a couple of goes at the old tarpon, and I've never caught one. I'd really like to catch a tarpon, and I'd really like to catch a halibut. I don't know why, but I would. And one of those bloody rooster fish, I'd like to catch one. But yeah, the tarpon, and a big one. If I could catch a tarpon, I'd be pretty bloody.
I could imagine catching a 200-pound flounder as well.
Yeah.
And just another quick one from Nigel Pollock: is technology overtaking the... Oh, that's a cheeky one. Is technology overtaking the value of the skippers? Crikey.
You know what? You got to move with the times. Yeah. You know, I hear this. The good guys are still going to be good. He's probably just talking about the sonar thing and everything like that. But it makes it easier. The big thing for me that I from when I started was the weather forecasting for a start, because we didn't know what was coming, and you'd be up at bloody the Kings and Richie Blomfield, what a legend. He'd either say there's some shit coming, stay, it's not going to eventuate, or you got boys need to get out of here. Without it, we'd have got some hell of a hidings. And so like the weather forecasting's so good now. So you can go out on the good days. You can see where the blue water is. You can see where you have everything, the current, the chlorophyll, before you even leave. And so, no, I think I'd rather have it this way. So I know, like I don't like rolling around in green water. So it's really nice being able to just run out into some blue water where you're going to find some fish. So yeah, there's, like we used to all use landmarks and stuff like that. But that's probably one of the reasons why we're catching more fish now, Lance, is the boats are better prepared, the tackle's better. We have better line now. The reels are way better than the old Senators. So all of that.
And you look at the power of sea surface temperature, chlorophyll, sea height, upwellings, all that kind of stuff. If you've got the power of that information at your fingertips and you can just power straight out there and get into it, then, man, the savings and all the rest of it are huge.
No doubt.
putting your clients straight into areas that you know the fish are going to be.
Absolutely. Like back in the day, you would spend, if there wasn't a lot of boats out, you would go out and then you'd be like, well, she's green. What are we going to do now? And it was just like, which way? And if you hadn't fished for a week, it was fine when you were fishing every day because you could kind of stay in touch with it all. But if you hadn't been out for 4 or 5 days and you just went out, so yeah, no, that's really made a significant difference.
And just another quick one from Stephen. What's your best day up at the Kings and most memorable?
We had a bloody good day up there on the Harlequin. We caught 7 or something, and it was like about 10:30 in the morning or something, and we had a hot one on, and Marty Bates was with us, and he broke. No, he didn't. That's right. He ripped the bloody hook out of the thing on the leader, and the hook come back and snotted him right below his bottom lip and opened him up and loosened all his teeth. And Clive was like, "Can we get a chopper?" I said, "We're taking him home." So that probably would have been a pretty good day because I can't imagine. It was, like I say, it was early. We were just slaying them. And then we had a good day with when Clive was with us just on his own. We caught 9 just with the one angler. But lots of good days. Yeah, I can't really pick one.
Yep. And would you generally split between the Kings and the Middlesex? Would you run over there on a regular basis, or were you just dependent on where the water was and bits and pieces?
When we first started going there, it was the Middlesex, man. Like Captn was good, but that Middlesex, man, and they were just big. Like every now and then I go back and have a look through the logbooks, and the size of the fish is just ridiculous. And we were underestimating them. There's no doubt. There was a couple of really big stripies we should have, in hindsight, but we couldn't be bothered. We were just tagging them. We didn't, we didn't really want to bring them on home, Every now and then one of the boys would want to get one smoked, so we'd whack one on the last day and chuck it in the ice and bring it home. But yeah, there was some big stripe marlin up there back then.
Nice. All right, let's move on to a couple more of the records because there's some real goodies in there. So this is the one that I was really interested in because this one went for just over 5 hours from memory, didn't it?
Yeah, that was a hell of a fish. That was one of our bad days. That was during the Nationals, and everyone was fishing like east of the light there, and I can't remember. I think Mark Noakes caught 5 or 7 blue marlin in that week in that tournament, and everyone was catching blue marlin. We never raised the fish. I was just tearing my hair out, and I was like, you know what, fellas, we're just going to hang in there till dark. And I'm not sure. It was late. It was we were the only ones there. Everyone else had gone back into Tom Boland's for the night, and we got this thing on, and we did so many 360s on that fish, and it was just insane. All we did, that fish never went far, and we were just hooking it around, just trying to keep in front of the bloody thing. And then it did some pretty crazy shit for a long time, and then it went dog on us, came up and did a few jumps now and then. That last couple of hours was pretty brutal way into the night. I think we put it in the boat, I don't know, 1 o'clock or something. I know we got into Tom Boland's pretty late that night. And Eryn's just a champion, like, it's hard to say, if you haven't stood there for that long, takes it. It's hard work, and she's just a tough woman, and yeah, she did an outstanding job. Yeah.
So we're talking what, 5 kg?
That was the 6 kilo record.
6 kilo. Yeah. So 181 kg blue on 6 kg.
Yeah.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah, it was a good effort. Yeah, very good effort.
What's next? Okay, where are we? All right. So, guys, 8 kilo record off the King Bank. Is this the one you caught on the while trolling?
Yeah, so we were live baiting. We were having really limited. We were getting lots of bites on the lures, and that was Rowan. Rowan's like, man, let's just try a live bait. So we messed around that for a little while and got that a little dialed in, and yeah, we caught that fish. And that fish, when we put that fish in the boat, I mean, it just went mad. I've never seen it like it. I'm glad it was only that big. If that thing had been 500 or 600 pounds, would have got someone for sure.
Yeah.
Enough room in the cockpit for us to get away. Me and Brad ended up on the covering board on that one in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a cool capture, that one. Yeah.
And you got that just coming onto the bank, or were you on the bank?
We used to fish up on the 249 there. We would marlin fish during the day, and then we'd troll along that ridge out, and always get bites from swords there. It's pretty good sword fishery, you know.
Yep.
And so yeah, we would that's
nice. All right, there we go. So was that one of the that weekend? I think that was the weekend, wasn't it? So that's the one of the two that Guy caught. Yeah,
that was hard case. So we left late that day, really late, and I think Guy had a meeting or something, and I don't know how many marlin or how many days we've done trying to catch that record on 30 pound. We would just miss by 5 kilos. We caught so many, and we just couldn't get one big enough. It was ridiculous. And yes, we spent trying to catch that fish. And then we get that thing, and then you see there's in that photo, see my young fella was supposed to be there to stick the gaff in, and he had to go on another boat or something. And so, that fish pulled hard. We got a gaff into it, and then I drove from the bridge, came down, stuck another gaff into it, and then it kicked off. I think we got one to the cleat, and then we were just hanging on to it, and then I got a meat hook in it, and we still couldn't get anything. And we just hung on to that thing for so long, and there was just water going everywhere. And then the Bailey's a big unit, and I was like, "Do you reckon you can hang on to this bloody meat hook, mate?" And he's like, "Of course." So he's just hanging onto a gaff rope and the meat hook. And when I stood up to get another gaff, we were doing like 2 or 3 knots through the water. Like we were moving just from the power of that fish. And that's all what I'm saying about the gaffs. We had the right gaffs. We had the big titanium gaffs in that thing, and good gaff shots. Like all that training of no bad gaff shots, put good shots in. And yeah, it all came together on that sword.
Nice. So the second one for that, have we got that double picture there, Keza? Yeah, there we go. Because I remember that weekend. I think I was up there fishing up around you guys over that weekend as well. So, but the first one was the one on the left, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. So the second one was on the run in from the previous one, she'd overheated, and so we had to change the impellers, and I'd ordered a set of impellers, but they were the wrong ones, and so I didn't realise there was 2 sets. So there was a bit of toing and frying, but I got another set sent up, and I got Reb, who was the engineer on the game boat. I got him to drive down and pick him up, and then he drove up, and we fitted that thing. So we had a real late start that day, and we got out there first drop, we got bit, and then there was so many boats there, and we got cut off or whatever. And then we actually caught a bloody squid, and then we caught a gemfish, and then we caught this thing, and it just swam straight to the surface, and we're like, huh. And I was up the tower. I was like, same thing. I was like, oh, if it's got a bit of size to it, I'll go downstairs and drive down there so I can slam a gaff in the bloody thing. And we were just cruising along. We just slowly backed through that whole fleet of boats that was there. And then I looked down, I can see him. I said to the boys, shit, there's a bit of colour there, fellas, I might come down. And then I was like, oh no, I'll just get a good look at it. And pretty much it came up and it was right there, and I went back quick, but I went back too soon and fucked that up really, because I'm like, oh, that was a mistake. I should have just held back there. And then it went down and it was still swimming, and then it unbelievably it turned upside down and started shaking its head, and we just stayed away from it. And as it shook its head, it just came up. We went back, slammed a gaff in it, and the boys filled it full of gaffs. And I was like, this, because they hadn't been on for whatever, like, I can't even remember how long it was. It takes a long time to wind all that line up. It was probably 20 minutes or something, a bit longer maybe. And so we pulled it in the boat, and I just thought it was going to go nuts. And that thing just lay there. It never even blinked. It just lay there, died. I couldn't believe it. So we got pretty lucky on that one. But that was the payback for all the grief that we went through to catch the one on 15. We got not an easy one, but we got one that gave us an opportunity.
Yeah. How just get back to tackle on, I mean, the development of deep water dropping and you know, that development over the years. When did you first start that whole deep water dropping side of things?
That's funny, because Brad Fergus we were talking about, and he said we should have a go on the king band. And so we got we didn't know what we were doing. We read about it. Those guys were doing it in South Africa and stuff. So we got set up. This is actually on the Harlequin. And so we went up to the 249, dropped there during the day when the fishing was slow. And I think we just got unlucky that we did catch a sword. And we caught a few bloody blue nose and a few bits of pieces, but we never caught a sword. And we tried a few times, and then we're like, and we kind of just faded away. And I always wondered what would happen if all we had to do was just catch one. And so then we went through that whole nighttime thing, and then the daytime thing kicked off. And it was fine when we were doing it on the Harlequin using heavy tackle and everything. It was easy, you know, but once we started trying to do it with a light tackle, it was a real problem. It was a problem getting the bait down.
Yeah.
And it was a problem. Everything about it was a problem. And then, so we really struggled. There was, you know, lots of guys catching lots of swords, and we were struggling. And it was really frustrating. And we kept trying to figure out how to get the bait down there and get the bait back without cracking the bloody. And Rowan, he was running the diesel then, and he came down and gave me a weight. He said, try that. So we stuck it on in it. And so I was like, there you go. Now we're away. So we refined that, and all of it, our baits were going down so much quicker. We were getting the baits back quicker, and all of that. And it was saving. We were fishing for like 2.5 hours a day more. Just by getting the bait down quicker and getting it up quicker. Yep. So once we got that sorted, and then we'd been doing it for a little while, so we'd figured out some other things about it as well. So there's a few really good years that we did pretty good on the swords.
Nice. And those swords, what would be your favourite or record that really stood out of that time?
Oh, it's hard to pick. Those two big fish back to back, I don't think you can beat that. Yeah. But there's a sword we caught on 6 that was just so much heartache and grief went into that fish. So that was pretty satisfying to catch that fish. But they're all the same. They're all the same. Like, I can't answer that question, you know. Like, when we did that wahoo fishing, I was like, man, this might be the hardest shit I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
And so we really got into it. It's just like every fish has its own thing in my mind about, you know, like.
Okay. Cool. So this is was this one of your first trips up to? Is this Cape Verde? Is it?
Yeah, second trip.
Yep.
Second trip.
Second
We didn't catch any, or we didn't kill any on the first trip, but we just knew that was the place. And we struggled. The first boat we leased was the Nekuchu, which was a little 33 Bertram, great little boat, but just not quite good enough. We were ripping back there one time and the bloody fish was right there, and the ram ripped itself off the bloody support, and the rudder came around and hit the prop and stalled the engine, and that was that. So the next time we went back, we managed to get with Zach and Marty on, and when we got the Amelia, that we caught those 2 records, and then and plus we had the good crew. We had Marty there and Cheese, another just a beauty, you know, and we had Rowan and Brad came with us. So we had a really good crew there as well. So we were pretty confident.
And then I think there's a bit of a story to tell about this next one up in Madeira with the Silver Rotor, I think it is. That one that you just had there, Kieran. The one that you just popped up before. There we go. I think he ended up on the deck for a while.
Which one was that? I've got to get my bloody glasses.
I think this is. I think this is where you're working with Brad.
Yeah. So Gary and Cheryl, 2 of the nicest people on the planet, they just said, "Would you like to come and do a season with us?" And I was like, "Man, it'd be really cool to do a season on the deck with my young fella." And so we went up there, and we ended up with 2, and both of them just the best thing about all of that was doing it with Brad, you know, just sitting there shooting the shit on the bloody icebox and catching a couple of records was really cool, awesome. And bloody good effort by Cheryl too, really good effort.
Nice. Any others there, Kieran? Oh, here we go. Sailfish.
Spearfish.
Spearfish.
Of course, there's a lot of grief.
Sailfish in New Zealand.
Those spearfish caused us a lot of grief. We tried to catch that record so many times, and we kept we cocked it up because we were trying to fish for striped marlin and blue marlin. And then when we went up to Newcastle, we were fishing down south there. There's a reef system down there down south, and it was just, we went down there and back. Guy had a day off, and me and the boys just went down. We caught a couple of blue marlin, but shit, there was some spearfish there. So we had a little bit of record book. I was like, thank God. So all of a sudden we just lightened everything down. And long story short, we actually didn't catch a record there, and we came back, and those early seasons, that's all we did. We just we didn't care about the blues or the stripies. We just wanted to catch a spearfish, and so that was a really satisfying fish to catch. Yeah.
What lures were you running for those?
Real small lures. I went and saw Bond's got a heap of real little ones of his real small lures that he had there. Nice.
What was the next one there, Kieran? Stripey on 4.
Yeah. Was that
119 for Eryn?
Eryn, I don't know how many fish. We weighed, I think, 7. The record was 95 or 90, something like that. And we would miss it by half a kilo. We weighed 2 in a day once, and they both missed by half a kilo. I was just shaking my head. You got to be kidding me. And then we finally got it, and we're like, oh, thank God for that. Knocked that one off. And that was one of the few times the line over tested. I was like, goodness, great. And so, yeah, finally we get that joker there. So, yeah, awesome.
Nice. Outstanding.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's you see the record, but no one really realizes the heartache and the effort that goes in to catch the bloody thing, you know? Yeah.
Just a quick one from Liam Gearing, who says, cheers to JB for throwing us his block and tackle to get a sword on our little boat back in 2017 when he was playing a 15 kg record sword. Never got the chance to say thanks. What a legend. Don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was good effort by those boys. Big swordfish got on them.
So a couple of blues, or a blue and a stripy, or the two big stripies?
No, stripy. So that's the stripy on one on the left there, and that's that's hard to beat because we'd had a pretty bad day the day before that, and we'd left the King Bank, gone across to the up above the Middlesex there, sword fishing that night. And we'd had a bit of a sort out. We'd had a couple of doozy cock-ups, and so we had a bit of a bloody debrief there that night. And swordfished all night, caught bloody nothing. And we were coming back down towards Middlesex, and I was in the galley actually, and I look back and I just see this little dorsal behind the rigger, and I was like, oh, small fish, tricked the one, and just ran out, climbed up on the bridge, and boys. We get this little wee jackmack out there, and it's just hardly swimming around, and that thing just casually swam up and ate it. And then I was like, well, here we go. And we'd had the leader the day before on 1 on 2, and we'd had a cock up at the boat, and everyone was pissed off. And I was like, you know what, fellas, we got the leader. This proves we can do this. We can do this. It's a cock up. We're going to learn from it. And we did. And then that fish went batshit. I can't believe that we were lucky that we could stay close enough to it. So most of the time, or a lot of the time, the line was actually direct to the fish. We didn't even get any belly on it or anything like that. And then it went out to the side, and then it just jumped straight towards us. And then, so we spun around and went after it. And then Brad just got the pinch on it. But he got the proper U-butte pinch on, flipped that fish in the air, and Rowan just smoked it like one of the finest gaff shots you're ever going to see. And that's what I'm saying. That was a time when all our mistakes that we'd learned from, if we hadn't learned from them, we wouldn't have caught that fish. It's as simple as that. And so that was really cool. That was another time that we actually, and that was early in the morning, we actually stopped and cracked a beer then too. And then when we were coming down, we caught that blue marlin on the way to the garden patch, but it just missed the record by it was a New Zealand record, I think. And I think it missed the record by 10 kilos or something. But another outstanding fish. And that was just a great couple of days, you know. Yeah,
nice. So what have we got here? So we've done that, and we've done that one. So just on tackle and bits and pieces, was there anything that really kind of formed in your mind around what the key to tackle was, like rods and reels? Was there a key setup that really was the setup that
I never
for both
about rods too much. I like a rod that I don't care what it is. If you're fishing 8 kilos line, I want to be able to put 4.5, 5 kilos on it with it, and I want it to straighten. So we got a lot of our all of our reels end up getting custom built. Kieran did a few, and then a few other guys have done some others for us around the place. And but more importantly was the reels, because we started off with the old TLDs.
Yep.
And then when I started with Guy, he had Jules, and we were just, they were the best reels at the time. Like, that's what was there. But when that Tyrannos came out, that was it, straight out of the box. Beautiful drag, just beautiful, beautiful drag. And so we could use the bigger reels for that light tackle and really get our retrieve because of the diameter of the spool. So yeah, the reels, those reels were, they were a game changer.
And you were pretty much using the same setup for most of the line weights, or? Yeah,
all the same. We would have, early on, it was a nightmare because we had to be prepared for whatever came along. And as we started to thin a few of the records out, we ended up with a lot less gear. But we would have so much. Like the boys would get up, or we'd all get up to be fair, but the boys would get up at like early, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. They'd spend an hour more just pulling drags, tying doubles, just getting tackle ready. The preparation into that was insane.
Yeah.
And before you even look like chucking a bait in the water, the prep that went in was massive.
So just on that, bimini or plats for doubles?
On the light stuff we use bimini, and on anything heavy like 50 and over, I don't even use the double, just use that 100%, not just straight swivel and no doubles. Yeah.
Okay. Is that something that you just developed yourself, or you picked up overseas?
No, we first started doing it on the reef. When we first started fishing on the reef, it was like 18 and 18, and there was some very good anglers there, and they had put a lot of drag on the fish, and then they'd get the bloody double coming down, and they'd reach up and grab it and hang on. And then as that slowly changed, then the leaders got longer and longer, and so then next minute everyone's got maxed out, like 28, 29 foot leaders. And then I was like, what's the point? What's the point of a double? So I don't even know who showed me that knot on the reef, but we just started using it. And I think a lot of the guys are using it now. We certainly use it on the heavier stuff.
I've got a bit of a loaded question here, I think, from Jeff Boyd. Just wondering if there's any stories about Deckies being KO'd by a gaff pole.
Any stories about what, sorry?
Deckies being KO'd by a gaff pole.
Nah, there is back in the day though. There was a few. There was a few on the reef, and it's another good lesson. Like that's where I learned it, because no one really focused on the gaff. So you'd slam the gaff in those big things. Gaff pole wouldn't come out, and now it's going back and it's a smashes, and now my mate's got a fractured bloody cheek. Yeah. So we were really fussy with our whole setup of the how the gaff fitted into the pole.
Yeah.
So I think there's been a couple of things here and there, but I don't know that we've actually really hurt anyone that bad, which is quite amazing. Yeah. Some of the stuff we've been doing, but there's been a few things.
Yeah. Just a quick question from Mark Bell. For you, how important is moon and tide?
It's very important. Yeah, like that full moon. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. Like if you only had fuel to go 10 days fishing in a summer, then I wouldn't go on a couple of days over the full moon. And in fact, back in the day when I was doing the charters out of with the Harlequin, and it was all just back to back to back. I would make sure I ended and started. I'd really try hard not to put some poor joker through the whole full moon. But
Yep.
and that, yeah. So, and the tide, clearly the tide makes a difference.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even for swords.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe even especially for swords.
Yep. Question from Liam: J or circle for swords?
We started with J's, ended up with circles. I don't really notice any difference. The downside of a circle and a sword is if you're doing what we're doing with light tackle and you're really hanging on. So like we ended up using some pretty heavy leader, and you talk to some of those boys that have pulled on those swords. We're pulling pretty hard, and so generally he's hooked here and are so soft around the face. You quite often just pull them out or just rip the bottom jaw off or something like that. So yeah, to be fair, the last few seasons we've actually been using the circles.
How often were you finding J's were hooking them in the corner of the mouth anyway?
Most of the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not necessarily gut holding them or anything. So
no.
Okay.
Well, you put a J out there, and there's always that chance. There's a lot less chance of that happening with a circle. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. But I think what we were talking about the other night was quite interesting that even though we're now under IGFA, not allowed to run the offset circles, you over the years ago changed away from offset circles anyway.
Yeah, I don't think that's an IGFA rule. I think that's just the New Zealand Game Fishing Council about the offsets. But we, back when we first started using circles for the stripies on the at the Kings, I don't even know where I got. Someone gave me this gnarly offset circle hook. I was like, I wonder what that's like. So we rigged up a few, and yeah, we stopped using them pretty quickly.
Yeah. Just because of the way they were getting hooked.
Yeah. Just couldn't do it.
All right. Cool. All right. So where are we? Any more pictures there, Kieran, or we'll move from that to what are you up to now?
What am I up to now? Not much. COVID got us pretty good. We sold, Guy and Eryn sold the hooky, and so did a little bit of freelancing here and there. I was supposed to be in Mexico, and I was pretty keen to go, but I decided not to because I didn't think I'd get back, and I was right. So I'm hoping to get back over there, hoping to get to travel again,
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm going to try and do a bit of brokering and, yeah.
All right. So you've hooked up, I think, with another ex-Kiwi, John, over in he's over in Fort Lauderdale or something, isn't he? John Blumenthal.
Yeah. Yeah. He's bought a couple of boats in over the years, and we just thought, you know what? There's still people here that want a boat that's not here in New Zealand, and if we can help, if someone wants a boat like that, and we can help them bring it in, yeah, we just thought we'd give it a go and see how it plays out.
Cool. So the opportunity really is, if you're interested in something from out of the States, then get in touch with John. And, there's trusted people now with John and Co up in the States to get up there and have a look at some boats and potentially bring them back down. Because there's some bloody good buys up there. It's an interesting name for a boat, isn't it?
You're right, yeah, the exchange rate's not ideal, but if you just got to look for that little diamond in the rough, don't you?
Yeah.
And a lot depends on what people are looking for, Some bloody good little boats there, I know that, like little 28, 35 footers, some really good little boats there as well.
Yeah.
Those good boats.
Excellent. All right. Well, John's contact details are down below there. and by all means get in contact. So just let's have a quick run through any other questions that are floating through. Question from Greg. Is bulk boats fishing in a location at once, at the same time, a positive or a negative for you?
I don't have a problem with it. I actually quite enjoy it. Yeah, certainly. I don't understand the whole just finding a bite and keeping it to yourself. In fact, the sword fishing, it gets a bit annoying. Like when you find some swords and now you've got guys dropping 50 meters from you, you're like, oh, wow. But as far as the marlin fishing, the more guys that can come and catch a marlin, the better, as far as I'm concerned. So no, I don't have a problem with fishing around a bunch of boats. In fact, I'd probably prefer it. It's a lot more fun.
Question from Mark Bell. My wife wants to know who's the best on the rod, the guys or the girls?
Girls are pretty good, but yeah, some pretty good. Yeah, it's hard to say. Some pretty handy fellas out there as well. So yeah, I think it's just once you buddy got it sorted out, I don't think it makes any difference. Like a lot of the girls think it's a brute strength thing. Well, it's actually not. It's so much technique. You can even like so many girls are petrified of a 130-pound line.
Yeah.
But if you set them up correctly in the chair, they love it. I really don't know.
And I think that's proven too with having a look at how many juniors we're seeing catching really good fish these days. It's not a strength thing. Question from David Barker. Hey John, we've been dropping a few marlin this season and they seem like they are hooked. What's a good tip to properly hook them?
For a start, they weren't hooked. It's as simple as that. Otherwise, you wouldn't have lost it. I don't know. Depends on how many you've lost. If you've lost 2 or 3, that could just be the law of averages, and you'll catch the next 2 or 3. The key thing for me, lure fishing, I'm assuming you're talking about, is sharp hooks. I just can't say it hard enough, often enough. Sharpen those hooks. Really put some effort into it. Knock a bit of the barb off, and
And for you, with lure fishing, a light drag setup on strike or
we don't
on strike?
We actually don't do a lot of lure fishing anymore. But certainly nothing too heavy. Like 5 or 6 kilos on the bite. And once the guy gets to the chair, just get into him. And
Okay. All right, cool. Okay, I think we might wrap this up. So, JB, thanks a lot for your time tonight. Really, really appreciate it. We need to look at a winner for tonight's prize. So, from the questions that have been asked tonight, what was your favourite?
I think his name was Nick. I should have but the guy said other skippers are relevant now. I thought that was a pretty good question,
All right, and we'll go back. Nigel Pollock, is technology overtaking the value of skippers? Was that the one?
Yeah, I don't think he's right. I don't think it is, but I thought it was a good question. Yeah, there's certainly like the days where the one skipper had the local knowledge and everything, and he would outfish everyone. It's a lot more level playing field now.
Absolutely. But the key is you still got to be good enough to understand the technology and be able to use it.
Yeah, you've got to be able to use it. Yeah, so the good guys will still be good.
All right, well, thank you everyone that joined us tonight. This broadcast will be saved, and if you want to go back and review it, then it'll be up on the NZ Big Game Fishing site. Also, just a quick reminder, we've still got the barbecue comp running down at North Shore Hunting and Fishing. We've still got 1 barbecue left to win, so get down there, and for every $100 you spend from memory, you go in the draw. to win that, and that's going to be drawn at the end of this month. Next week's guest is coming to us live from Cape Verde, and we'll be announcing who that is shortly. It was mentioned tonight quite briefly. It was something to do with a hook and a mouth. So I'm sure that that's going to be a really interesting catch up with him next week. So I'll wait for that announcement. So once again, JB, thank you very, very much for joining us tonight. It's been really interesting, and we really appreciate you taking the time to spend with us tonight.
I enjoyed it.
Excellent. So just hang in there. So thanks everyone, and good night.